Design thinking does not have a fixed definition, and different experts have expressed it differently. Here are some of them before we get down to the actual process. Tim Brown, he is the CEO of a famous design company called IDEO, and he says, in inverted commas, design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from designer's toolkit to integrate three elements. First, need of the people. Second, possibility of the technology. And third, the business requirements. Then there is SAP, one of the foremost companies who have implemented design thinking in their part of their everyday culture. SAP says design thinking is a unique approach to problem finding and problem solving with a focus on human meaning and empathy. So you see there are interesting words being used, problem finding and problem solving, and we'll learn about them in detail. IBM, another company which has implemented design thinking slightly more elaborate manner. The core principle of design thinking is simple. Shape your product's design according to your users' wants and needs. In practice, it is far from simple. It means working backwards from the user experience to determine the detail of an offering or a product. Then there's a definition, last one, from a Donald Norman, a renowned name in user experience design. And Don Norman says, designers don't try to search for a solution until they have determined the real problem. And even then, instead of solving the problem, they stop to consider a wide range of potential solutions. Only then, they will finally converge upon the proposal. And this process is called design thinking. So there is a pointer that the problem you read as a project brief may not be the real project brief. What could it be then? If you'd heard all these definitions, you would have seen some words and concepts, bit of repeating throughout the narrative. Focus on the user, problem redefinition, creativity, human meaning, etc. These are, of course, the soul of design thinking, differentiating it from the rational processes, rational problem-solving processes. Usually, we find only, if you look up on internet, usually we would find that there is a 5-step process to describe the design thinking method. However, we think that it is not sufficient to grasp the nuances of the process or design thinking just by simplifying it to just 5-step process. Of course, we will be discussing this 5-step process also. So we suggest learning 5 key concepts first of design thinking apart from the 5-step process. The process is built upon using these underlying concepts, and let me take you through now these 5 concepts of design thinking. These 5 concepts are empathic inquiry, that's first one. Second is abductive reasoning. Third is visual thinking. Fourth is pattern reading. And fifth, which is much talked about, is double diamond method. So let's go through these 5 concepts before we move on to the process, and we will be seeing how each of these concepts are so fundamental to design thinking. The first one is empathy or empathic inquiry. Now, empathy as a word is not a new concept. Lord Buddha talks about it or talked about it thousands of years back. Empathy means leaving rational mind aside for some time and getting into the shoes of the others or the users, as we say, to feel what users feel in that situation or what others feel in that situation. Professionally, there are techniques to empathize borrowed from anthropology and sociology. For example, fly on the wall, open-ended conversations, issue cards, mood boards, etc. There are dozens of them. We'll touch upon some of these techniques later in this course. Empathy sure is a big change design thinking is promising in our business world, and as they say now, empathy is the new strategy. Second, the most important concept of design thinking is abductive reasoning. Abductive reasoning is a sibling of deductive and inductive reasoning, as one can think of. Deductive reasoning starts with a known multiple premises and logically funnels to one proposition. Start and the end both are definitive. We all use deductive thinking in everyday work. Like Manoj always sits on a chair and there is no chair in the room. So the deduction is Manoj wouldn't have sat at all, right? Inductive reasoning starts with a definitive observation and the end set is also infinite. End set is infinite, in fact. For example, I have seen Manoj sitting on a chair on 2 occasions and I have concluded that he always sits on a chair. Now, this is a generalization or inductive thinking. Now, abductive thinking is for situation where you do not have definitive starting premises. So you make hypotheses. So the starting set and the concluding set, both are just postulations or hypotheses. Neither the beginning is clear nor the end set is clear. You are only converging stage by stage towards a better hypothesis. Now, abductive thinking is for situations where you do not have definitive starting premises. So you make hypotheses. In everyday IT situations where we do not know the complete set of problem, despite the brief being in front of us, we apply abductive thinking. So here is how we do it. When the starting set and the concluding set both are just postulation or hypothesis, that's where the abductive thinking sets in. In our example, if I have seen Manoj sitting on a chair on 2 occasions, this is not enough to conclude his sitting preferences. So I postulate that there is a possibility if there are no chairs in the room, he might have sat on the floor as he can't be standing for long. One can say this is just a pragmatism, just a common sense. Yes, abductive reasoning is about exploring pragmatic possibilities with an open mind. Postulations and validations become a recursive cycle in design thinking, and that's where abductive reasoning becomes one of the very important postulate or concept of design thinking. Third concept is visual thinking. It says that in a problem solving or creative thinking process, do not just verbalize. Keep things visual. Small doodles, small anecdotes, even writing things on plain paper helps others go over it and use these ideas to springboard further. This is the reason when you see pictures around design thinking, you see a lot of colorful sticky notes in the background. Visual skill is a primal skill since the caveman times. In verbal discussions, we engage only the left side of our brain, analyzing thoughts in order to analyze the thoughts. But when we see a visual, any picture or any drawing, the right side of brain kicks in and the thinking process becomes holistic. Also, we tend to forget very quickly when the discussion is only verbal. Visuals on the table or on the wall, if they are in front of you while solving a problem, help you recall the entire proposition at once. And for the team, most importantly, there is lesser ego clashes and better leap of ideas as there's always an anchor which is visual. Visual thinking is in fact a great process for consensus in the team apart from uplifting the quality of the creative ideas itself. The fourth concept is pattern reading. Pattern reading is, as we say, birds of a feather flock together. This is a simple principle from nature applied to business, as pattern reading provides a great leverage to business. Apart from the user focus or human centricity, no other concept is as central to design thinking as the pattern reading. All the rich entrepreneurs we keep following on social media are known to be excellent pattern readers. Design thinking picks up this key concept from design and democratizes it by laying out a format for making everyone a good pattern reader. Affinity mapping, affinity analysis, or cluster analysis, these are the names given to a formal process of pattern reading in design thinking, and they are one of the same thing. This is a tool we use to structure the pattern reading in design thinking and make this available as a skill to everyone who participates. We will learn about this clustering technique or affinity analysis in much greater detail during the course. The fifth one is double diamond method. The double diamond diagram or the method talks about the design thinking process, the way it works. The process is separate, but this sort of rides over the process. It's the underlying fabric of the process, the macro view of the design thinking process. Most importantly, it points to the fact that when one gets to the brief, don't just start ideating. First step is to open up the brief through empathic research. See things from users' perspective. Look at the ecosystem dynamics. Even if the brief is super sharp, brief may come to you like a charter, but still start with the how the ecosystem around the user is. Diverge first. That's what it says. Then you consolidate the finding and arrive at a single redefined brief. This is the first convergence of the diamond as you see it. Then the team generate multiple ideas, which is the second divergence of the diamond. This is the convergent part of the second diamond is about selecting one idea out of the many ideas you've generated for prototyping or implementation. Double diamond just shows that for an effective innovation process, one must undergo diverge, converge rounds using design thinking process, of course. One can undergo several of these rounds in an innovation process till you arrive at a winning solution. If you look deeply, all these concepts are interconnected. One needs visuals and prototypes even to empathize and make a hypothesis. While discussing ideas within the team, one needs empathy with the fellow teammates, of course, to give them a good hearing. Empathy cannot be just with the customer. Empathy has to be with the teammates also. Iteration is naturally built into the narrative if we are speaking of successive refinement of the hypothesis. And that's the double diamond method or double diamond process. And this is the underlying thread or the underlying concept behind the design thinking process, which we are about to discuss.